our studios at Haugh. I am Mark Grote for the Daily Score. Thank you for tuning in. As always, I've been hanging out here a lot for the rookie mini camp and meeting all of the young players and meeting some new coaches or getting to know them a little bit better. The Bears have a new offensive coordinator in Shane Waldron. They have a new defensive coordinator in Eric Washington. Richard Hightower still in the house. So let's hear from all three of them. I know the guy that you are most anxious to hear from is Shane Waldron, the offensive coordinator, because he has a huge responsibility of taking a lot of talent and making sure it works. We know about the veteran talent on the Bears, but there is a certain rookie on the Bears named Caleb Williams who he has got to mold from day one and getting him used to the NFL and the way the Bears do business and the way the NFL does business off the field and on the field mostly. So let's get right into that and the jump that Caleb Williams is about to make from college football to the NFL.
Obviously had huge success in college. What does he need to know now? What kind of coaching does he need to catch up with the NFL game? Because I imagine that's hard for star quarterbacks to accept that they need to do things differently at the NFL level.
Right. I think, just with our interactions so far, his ability and desire to accept coaching and keep learning, keep listening, has been excellent, as have all the rookies that have been in here for the last 24 hours or so. And so as he moves forward, it's really more about the operation, building that foundation. The plays, the schemes, those things will happen as we keep building an offense. But right now, at the core of it, each building in football, you speak so many different languages, and a lot of words mean the same thing, but you got to figure out, what's our language? What's the language for the 2024 Chicago Bears? And so that's a main part of it, main part of what we're doing right now, main part of the process as we build forward to, that final, culmination of all the work we put in. We're on game day when stuff's going on and we're talking to each other. We're using the terms that mean the same thing to one another. And it's not there's no gray area, and that communication can be at the highest level possible.
And that stuff takes time. I mean, it will take some time. There will be mistakes along the way. May as well get them out of the way right now. But once he gets all of that stuff down, then he can be himself a little bit more, so to speak, in terms of off-script plays and improvising and all that stuff. And they're not going to take any of that stuff away from him. I mean, it's always interesting to talk to coaches out here about that part, that of course, they're going to teach him concepts and timing and the drops and however they're going to use them in terms of the absolute rudimentary things. But a lot of it's like, we don't want to take away what made this guy special. It's almost like the coach is like, don't put that on me. We're not going to try to do that. We are going to teach this guy what he needs to know. And then eventually they're going to let him cook. And hopefully the cooking is good once it really starts to happen. Let's get more from Shane Waldron right now on how will this offense operate.
For us on offense, we want to be able to be multiple on offense. And so with the addition of the wide receivers, having three receivers, two great established vets, we got other young guys that are up and coming as well on the roster. It just allows us to continue to be multiple, allows us to, on a week-by-week basis, see what might be a matchup advantage or something that we can look to lean heavier towards. And, with that, with Cole and Gerald and the other tight ends and KB at fullback, I mean, we got a lot of different pieces that we can utilize. And so, for us right now, this is the time of year where we're trying to figure out, how's everyone going to carve out their own individual role for this 2024 offense. And, the more good players you can surround yourself with, the better you're going to be as a coach, obviously. So it's been a tremendous offseason of being able to do that and add different pieces. And then the guys that are returning, they're continuing to learn and grow and become better players as well. So it'll be fun to have, all these different players and figuring out what their roles will be for that season.
Just empty out the backfield and load it up with a bunch of wide receivers and become multiple, as he said. But, yeah, I mean, Keenan Allen and DJ Moore, you look for them to be targeted a ton early. Rome Odunze may be right on the right page quickly. But, look for those two guys to kind of rule things early on. And as Shane Waldron said, they are still trying to figure out, or he's still trying to figure out. Obviously, they have a blueprint idea of how they're going to use each of these guys: Allen, Moore, Rome Odunze, the Tyler Scott. Maybe he jumps to the next level. He was a little bit disappointing last year at times, but there's still a ton of talent, and he might still be the fastest wide receiver in that room. So yeah, he's got all the pieces, Waldron does, and now he's just starting to put it together. Let's move on to the defensive side of the ball. Eric Washington is the Bears' new defensive coordinator. If you hadn't heard, Matt Eberflus will continue to call the plays on the defense. We're all wondering exactly how this works and what does Eric Washington do if he's not going to be calling the plays. Well, from talking to him today, we talked to him probably about 15 minutes or so. He's in control of this defense. There is no doubt about it. Flus is going to have Flus is going to have all the input that he wants. But I also know that Matt Eberflus is going to spend a lot of time developing a relationship with Caleb Williams. So Eric Washington is the guy. Game day, Matt Eberflus will call the plays. I got a feeling that eventually Eric Washington might call plays, but Flus was successful at it. So he was the guy, and he should be the guy, should Matt Eberflus calling the plays. But one of the guys that is very fascinating and intriguing to me is the Bears' fifth-round edge rusher, Austin Booker. The kid out of Kansas also played at Minnesota. Here's the thing, and I'm stealing this from my friend and colleague from the Sun-Times, Mark Potash. When you see this guy, and we were close up with him on the practice field, he looks the part. Boy, does he look the part. He looks the part more than just about anybody out there. He is a specimen. He is Austin Booker, 6'5", 240, lean, muscular, all of that stuff. So you see what they were seeing when it comes to him. And the word that has been thrown out there to describe Austin Booker at this point is raw. And Eric Washington kind of pushed back on that.
When you hear that word, that implies that there's not a lot of polish, not a lot of perhaps details, or there's a lack of experience in terms of, how you appoint or how you apply what you're able to do against the offense. I'm not sure I've met a rookie that wasn't raw. And so what we want to do is just take what he can do and really hone and shape that, develop him, inform him of all of the things that will allow him to play as fast and as physical as he possibly can play, and just build the player, build the person, and build the player.
When you talked about the rookies all kind of being raw, and as it pertains to defensive end, what's the biggest adjustment that a defensive end has to make from college to the pros before they're not raw?
Without question, I guess the strength and the power of the guys that they're going up that they're competing against. That's, to me, the biggest jump, the biggest thing that I have that you'll see. The guys, they're competing against the strongest guys on the field. And you have to be extremely precise to create separation and to execute your job and to get away from this guy. And so that's the biggest thing that I've seen that they're really shocked with, is the strength of the men that they're working against. We can't afford to have a rusher stall. We can't afford to have a person on the line of scrimmage not be in total command of his gap responsibility or leverage or be in a position to finish a football play. So that's the thing that always kind of catches them by surprise. And then as their technique starts to advance, now they're finding a way to really create that separation and do their jobs.
Yeah, and I think also, versatility of moves when you're going up against those big guys on the offensive lines of respective opponents, that you better come up with an arsenal of, especially for a rookie. However, bull rush, or if you're going to dance around, whatever the case may be, it's important to have all sorts of different tools in that toolbox, and no matter what edge rusher you are, but especially with a rookie who is going to be going up against experienced guys who might at this point be stronger than Austin Booker. But like I said, I'm excited to see the progress with him and how fast he will get on the field. There's no indication about that as of yet. So we're going to find out really quickly. And, one of the things, too, is from talking to people around the NFL, multiple people have told me that if he had stayed in college, if Austin Booker had stayed in college another year, he would have been a second-round pick. Another guy said he would be a first-round pick. Obviously, he would have had to produce, but those were predictions that were made. So hopefully the Bears have a legitimate prospect project. And if you don't like the word raw, that's fine. And I understand too. I mean, one of the guys that I think of when I hear those words is Dominique Robinson, who is heading into his third year, and he just has not been productive in the first 2 years. And we heard all the same stuff about him. He was, transitioning from a different position. So maybe he gets something this year. But yeah, that did pop in my head because Robinson looks the part as well. But that's an interesting player that I think eventually is going to sprout for the Bears and hopefully for their sake be a W. The other question that's been on my mind, and I think a lot of people's, is who's going to be the three technique of this team? Justin Jones no longer on this team. We know that Gervon Dexter got some experience at it. To a lesser degree, Zach Pickens. The question to Eric Washington, the Bears defensive coordinator, is Gervon Dexter ready to take over that position full time?
Well, our responsibility is to make sure he is when it counts. And that's why we're going to use the full process, the off-season training camp, every ounce of meeting that we can get walkthroughs to just continue to move him forward.
The answer to the question, in other words, is they don't know yet. They don't know yet. Gervon Dexter had some really nice – it was a typical uneven rookie season, but there is much expected from Gervon Dexter, the second-round pick, who actually thinks he should have been a first-round pick, so he's still got plenty to prove in order to be that guy 3 downs on the field as the three technique. We'll see. Zach Pickens was really good in all the offseason stuff last year and in camp and even in the preseason, and then just kind of went away a little bit during the regular season. So I'm looking forward to seeing what his development is like as well. Finally, we go to special teams and Richard Hightower. One of the things that noticed right away on the first day of rookie camp was there was punting going on, and the person receiving the punts from the great Torrey Taylor was Rome Odunze in a lot of cases. So Rome Odunze, maybe he's your punt returner. Let's hear from Richard Hightower.
Yeah, I think Rome is an every down player. So Rome's a first down player, a second down player, third down player, and a fourth down player. You all know that he had 3 returns that are on the books, and 1 out of those 3 returns was a house call. So we all love that ratio, right? And we all love what he can do as a receiver. I mean, leading up in there in yards. I mean, he's a dynamic player, and again, credit to Ryan and his staff. He's an even better person. Like, he's a really good person, hard worker.
So is he the favorite then to be punt returner? Is it his job? Is he going to be the punt returner?
Yeah, I would never discuss that in the open, but that's a great question. That's a great question.
You get a great question.
Yeah, that's a great question. Hey, listen, he's in contention, all right, just like everybody else. So, best man will win. Cream rise to the top.
Had to ask the question. We'll see. I am skeptical about that. I mean, I think he'd be great. He may be the best option, but it just goes along with the fact that he's going to be so valuable as a wide receiver that you may not want to do that to him. So my guess is that he won't be, but I do not know that for a fact. It's going to be interesting, and we are blessed to get another year of Richard Hightower, who really is good at his job, and he embraces talking to us, which obviously we appreciate very much. And I also appreciate you guys for listening to the Daily Score every day here. It's going to be a blast discussing this Bears team and what what is to come for this team. And, got the OTAs coming up and some mini camps, and that'll lead into the training camp as well. That's going to be it for this edition of the Daily Score. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching on YouTube. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for liking, and all the little things we always talk about when it comes to the podcast, and specifically the Daily Score. For Ray Diaz, the executive producer of the Daily Score, I'm Mark Grote, and I'll talk to you later.